Hello, once again, Kenny Jacobs from Bloomington, Illinois. I'm going to do another video this evening talking about current events as it relates to Bible prophecy. You know, I do these videos for two main reasons. One, to get unsaved people to think and consider the truth of God's Word, which will hopefully lead to some salvations. And two, to encourage believers in their faith and help make them more aware of the signs of the times. These videos are a wake-up call that the prophecies of the last days are rapidly coming to pass. And I talk a lot in these videos about Israel. And I have said all along that I will always support Israel. Zechariah chapter 2 verse 8, God calls Israel the apple of his eye. And Israel is God's prophetic time clock. And that time clock began ticking in earnest in 1948 when Israel became a nation. And the world since then has been focused on Israel and Jerusalem. And that is becoming more and more apparent every day, which again is another sign that we are living in the last days. It's exactly what the Bible said would happen. I'm going to look at Zechariah chapter 12, verse 1 through 4 says, "The burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith the Lord, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him." I love that verse. It's just a great verse. God made the heavens and the earth, and he formed the spirit of man. Verse 2, "Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. In that day, saith the Lord, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness. And I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness." Now what he's saying there actually goes along with Ezekiel 38:39 about how God will fight for Israel and the enemies will turn against themselves during the battle. Verse 8 and 9, Zechariah 12 says, "In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem." Well, we're living in the last days, so all the nations of the world are turning more and more against Israel as we speak. Unfortunately, that is very true for the United States as well. Until recently, the United States has always supported Israel. But our support is fast becoming a thing of the past. In Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 through 3 says, "Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed." Alright, so what I want to do is look at an article out of Prophecy News Watch. I'm not going to read this whole article, but I'm going to highlight certain areas of it and post it to the description box so you can read it for yourself. But the title of the article is "Judgment Upon America for Sins Against Israel." It says, "Is there an established pattern or relationship mainly between the natural and economic disasters that have been suffered by the United States over the years and the times that the United States has attempted to divide Israel in favor of the Palestinians. Now the End Begins blog recently inferred as much, pointing to 12 examples that seem to clearly illustrate this point. Now keep in mind, again, that the United States is constantly pressuring Israel again to give up land for peace. And it's going to be very bad news for the United States of America once that day occurs. Here's the first example. The Madrid Peace Conference, October 31st, 1991, President George H. Bush promoted the Madrid Peace Conference where he attempted to divide the land of Israel in exchange for peace with the Palestinians. The next day, a very rare, huge storm, starting in the North Atlantic, moved east to west, hit North America's eastern seaboard, and was called a perfect storm because of the rare combination of factors that created it. Interestingly, one of the first places the perfect storm hit was Kennebunkport, Maine. Waves over 30 foot demolished the home of President George H. Bush, the instigator of the Oslo Accord. Number 2, the Madrid Peace Conference, Part 2, on the 23rd of August, 1992. The Madrid Conference was not successful the first time around, so a year later, President Bush tried it again. On the very same day, Hurricane Andrew smashes and crashes into Florida. Andrew causes over $30 billion in damage while destroying over 180,000 homes. At that time, Andrew was the worst natural disaster ever to hit America. Number 3. The Oslo Peace Accord on September 13th, 1993. President George H. Bush promoted and proudly signed the infamous Oslo Accord. The Oslo Accord was labeled a Land for Peace Accord that demanded Israel award their land to the Palestinian murderers and terrorists in exchange for peace. On the very day that the Oslo Peace Accord was agreed upon, Hurricane Emily slammed into the Outer Banks with winds up to 115 miles per hour. Number 4. Talks to give up the Golan Heights. On January 16, 1994, President Bill Clinton meets with terrorist and Israel hater Syria's President Hafez al-Assad in Geneva. They talk about a peace agreement with Israel that includes Israel giving up the Golan Heights. In less than 24 hours, a powerful 6.9 earthquake rocked Southern California. This mysterious quake, centered in Northridge, is the second most destructive natural disaster to hit the United States behind Hurricane Andrew. Land for Peace, September 28, 1988. Secretary of State Madeleine Albright finishes the final details of an agreement which requires Israel to surrender 13% of Judah and Samaria. President Bill Clinton meets with Yasser Arafat and Netanyahu at the White House to finalize another Israel Land for Peace hoodwink. Later, Arafat addresses the United Nations and declares an independent Palestinian state by May 1999. The same day, Hurricane George blasts the Gulf Coast with 110-mile-per-hour winds and gusts up to 175 miles per hour. The hurricane hit the coast and stalled until the agreement was finalized, and Arafat addressed the UN. Then it hit and caused $1 billion in damage. The exact time that Arafat departs the U.S., the storm begins to dissipate. There's actually, they give you 13 or 14 examples in here that coincide with exactly the day or the day of, the week of these events and disasters hitting America. Well, again, it cannot be good news if we continue to force Israel into a peace agreement that divides their land, a peace agreement that they really don't want, and certainly a peace agreement that will go against God's Word. I want to do one other story real quick. I talk a lot also in the videos about the third temple that will be in place during the final 7-year period of time. And an amazing discovery just happened that is necessary for the third temple to be built. So let me pull this article up here real quick. It says, perfect red heifer discovered in U.S. to be sent to Israel to purify coming third Jewish temple. And this is out of nowtheendbegins.com. The scriptural reference is Numbers 19:1 and 2. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, This is the ordinance of the law which the Lord hath commanded, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel that they bring thee a red heifer without spot, wherein is no blemish, and upon which never came yoke. There is a group in Israel's capital city of Jerusalem called the Temple Institute. For the past 27 years, they have worked tirelessly to fashion all the items that will be needed for worship in the third Jewish temple. It is a painstakingly slow job, but one that they have accomplished. One missing ingredient, however, was a perfect, unblemished red heifer, as found in Numbers 19, whose ashes would be used in a purification cleansing ritual for the temple. For the entire time that the temple stood in Israel, a total of 9 red heifers were used. Jews believe that the appearance of a perfect red heifer would usher in the appearance of the long-awaited Messiah. The 10th red heifer has been found in America, and preparations are now underway to bring the animal to Israel. The 9th chapter of the book of Daniel tells us that the temple is indeed standing during the time of Jacob's trouble, as found in Jeremiah 37. Daniel learned much from the writings of the prophet Jeremiah, but Daniel goes on to say that when the temple is rebuilt, it will be inhabited by the Antichrist, the false Messiah. Daniel devotes multiple chapters to this man of sin that will arise and deceive the Jews by flatteries. Daniel 9:27, he says, And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, which again is actually a 7-year period of time. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Jesus Christ also referred to the abomination of desolation in Matthew chapter 24. And Paul mentions it as well in his writings. The appearance of a perfect red heifer has sent shock waves among the temple faithful in Israel, for they believe it will usher in the Messiah. But it will not. It will usher in a time of agony, bloodshed, and woe, the likes of which this world has never seen. It will start with the false Messiah in a rebuilt third temple, and it will end with the time of Jacob's trouble, leading into the day of the Lord from Joel chapters 2 and 3. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. But here we go. Another end time situation here. Something that has to happen for the temple has been found, leading us that much closer to the Jews being able to build their third temple. And there's a lot going on with the Temple Mount. Jews have been allowed up there a little more lately, but that's causing a lot of conflict on the Temple Mount between the Muslims and the Jewish people. But Israel's beginning to speak up and demand more rights to the Temple Mount. And there's no doubt that when the 7-year treaty is signed, one of the things that will happen is the Jews will be allowed to build that third temple. Israel is without a doubt God's prophetic time clock. And there is a false teaching out there that the church is Israel now, that God is done dealing with Israel, but that is absolutely not the case. In the final 7-year period of time, after the times of the Gentiles have been fulfilled, and the church has gone home, God will again be dealing directly with Israel in the final 7-year period of time, known as the time of Jacob's trouble. And we can see with all the events going on right now that we are getting closer and closer to that time period. It is absolutely time to make sure that you are saved. If you have not been born again and given your life to Jesus Christ, today is a day of salvation. All the signs that Jesus said would be here, signaling his return, are escalating every single day all around the world. And you're going to continue to see more and more stuff in the Middle East that will blow your mind on a daily basis. Try to stay encouraged, trust in God, stay in the Word, and keep looking up. All the signs are here. God bless everyone.